Okay. Well, I am very excited to talk to you today about something that I have absolutely loved in my life. I'm sorry, I'm just starting something for me. Okay. Yeah, so I am very excited to talk to you today. I chose this topic just a little bit because I knew how hard it is to at least do this profession, and it also continues to get crushed by every single 12-year-old out there whenever they want to become a professional athlete. And it's sports. Really, I'm going to be talking about how artificial intelligence plays a role in sports. And the thought and idea of, well, what if you never lose again? Well, that would be fantastic. No one wants to continue to be an awful or keep losing, and using artificial intelligence and how that plays a role, that would be huge in the game of professional sports. And it is a game. And what really brought this out of me? Well, ever since I wanted to do this, my mom was like, "No, don't you're not going to be a professional athlete." And I was like, "Well, why?" "Well, you're not good enough." And I was like, "Fine." Well, I watched this movie when I was in high school, and this brought it back. It's Moneyball. The idea of Moneyball is, well, you are given certain business rules or certain scenarios, and you have to figure out how to still win ball games. Brad Pitt, one of the players, or one of the roles he does, or the role that he plays in this movie, he was a GM, and they were given certain rules where I don't know if you watched this before, but like the salary cap was limited, and everyone was wanted to get out of Oakland at the time, and uh, they couldn't find cheap players who could play, and they were so sick and tired of losing, and so he figured out a different way of looking at how the game is played, and he ran into this man over at the Cleveland Indians, and he used big data, and how that transformed the organization was crazy. They went on a 21 game winning streak because the main idea is, well, doesn't matter if the player is a big name. Well, what like you should be paying on how often he gets on base, and that's what they did, and they won games. Well, we got to consider, though, how artificial intelligence, here, I'm going to minimize me real quick, how artificial intelligence is played in the game right now. Well, it's used to boost player performance on uh, data on how it is, um, how what exercises they should use, what uh, are some maybe health prevention or muscle prevention. We don't want, or injury prevention. We don't want anyone getting hurt. Officiating and judging. This could have been useful for last year NFL playoff run between the Chiefs and the Bills, where the Bills were on an urgent 1 yard line, and the judges or the referees couldn't tell which one it was, but they ultimately ruled toward the Chiefs, and it was it was a turnover, and that was a really big moment in the game. Fan experience with sports betting right now, it is crazy how artificial intelligence is inputting how fans should place their bets. And so with data and analytics and how it's going to continue to evolve, we got to consider what Steph Curry says, right? We want to make sure we work smarter, not harder. I that's at least a philosophy I believe. If we're able to make adjustments in games and in practices, we'll be actually ready for the future and what to come. Well, how do we really do that? How do we use big data now to be ready for the future? Well, um, one thing that kind of inspired me over the last couple weeks as I've been doing it. Well, there's this company called Alpha Zero. They came out with AlphaGo, and I and they have created a artificial intelligence program that's been able to um, master the game of chess and master the game of Go and a couple other board games, but it got me thinking about, well, how come you can't take that to a bigger scale? Like why can't it impact professional gaming in a way? Because it did ultimately beat the top gold player in the world. How come you can't treat every individual professional athlete out there as a piece on a board? And I know that sounds kind of bad, and in some ways, how should we start doing this? Well, actually, there is uh, an article that kind of lined up or leaned into this idea of, well, we got to also consider everything, right? We got to consider how the player, the athlete really responds. You don't know how to use the queen in chess, right? And so you have to figure out all the ways and different strategies how to use the queen. And you got to make sure the queen is healthy. I know that's kind of a stretch there, but it's kind of true, right? If you don't know how to use a certain piece in the game and how to strategize it, well, we got to take into how does a player really treat itself. That's how we know it can be optimal, how the queen can be optimal. But then how do we take it into consideration as a whole? Well, we got to look at, again, not only just at everything in the player, but we got to look at everything in the game of the league. Well, we got to look at past data. How did the game evolve, right? Well, now in the NBA in the early 2000s, it was a hardcore pass it to the middleman, have him dunk it in. But now it's spread out. It's to the 3-point line. No one really like it's not fun to watch anymore, but it they still win. It still puts them in the best position to win. Well, this is one thing I want us to also consider within this. Well, what if we are able to simulate plays and outcomes? What if we're able to adapt to what is currently being played in the NBA or in the NHL? But what if we're able to run quality simulated data to showcase the capabilities of each player and how they all play together in real time using that synthetic data. Uh, well, I actually put it in. This is probably taking it down to a like an elementary school level, but I actually asked ChatGPT to make me a a synthetic data for its gameplay for a year, and for a game, or I'm going to assume a year because this is a lot of attempts. But I actually took this data and I threw it into Sports Coach AI, and I actually asked it. I said, or I actually didn't even tell it was Steph Curry, and I just gave it the data to it, and it actually ended up giving me a play, double corner rip, right? And it's kind of a funny looking play. I actually asked it to draw it up. It's nothing what it described and what it asked for, and uh, but oh, this is in the way. Let me see if I can go back. There we go. Um, and it kind of looks like something like this of what it described. Is well, actually, Steph Curry is going to be identified as number three here, and the five is going to be up on the hash marks here. But Steph Curry starts here below the nets, wraps around, and because he's also has a high restricted area here, he can either take this shot to the for the mid range or come in for the restricted area for the layups, and then or he can take that step back to where he's strong on the wing and take that shot. That is kind of the idea of there is giving it options and optimizing its options because it can either give it to the four and the four can dish in and create that shot. And there's many more we can give into, but hopefully that kind of paints the idea and the picture of how if we optimize the player's strengths or if we continue to collect data on the player's strengths, well, we can create plays and optimize it, right? And well, we got to also consider though, well, how do we come up with this? Well, we also have to match the players, the coaching style for the player, right? Uh, I have two of the biggest dynasties to say in sports. We got the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bulls, uh, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Uh, they won a total of 6 Super Bowls, which is crazy to hear between the two. Um, Bill Belichick was able to uh, create pocket passes pocket passing plays for Tom Brady to use and throw and make sure he's optimized because Tom Brady, he is not a fast runner. So what do? Well, you have to create certain offensive angles and openings for him to do that. And some of the biggest strategies that over on the right that the Chicago Bulls took advantage of was, well, Larry Jackson, the coach at the time, well, he knew he had a superstar, three superstars in total, but uh, his strategies made them superstars with Michael Jordan with the triangular offense, which was referenced in episode 4 of The Last Dance. It's a documentary that they gave out, but Michael Jordan was on the top, and then you had the two below, Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman. Well, the idea was, well, they're going to optimize his skill, Michael Jordan's skill up top to either create an opening shot, or if he was double coverage, to then uh, dish it off to Dennis Rodman down there, who's lined up on the baseline. Where if he makes the shot or takes the shot and misses, Dennis Rodman was there to clean up, right? And so the idea was so balanced to each player's strengths where it complemented their strategy. Well, no one realized, like, yes, they're geniuses. They figured this out, but what if they had artificial intelligence? Wouldn't do you think they would have got there faster? I think so. Actually, I'm going to reference a article toward at the end. I'll show you the reference, but it's a article given by Forbes where, well, AI coaching is used. Well, it can be used to, well, optimize the player rotation based off of also who's on the defense, right? Um, smarter plays are can be created uh, to used, especially when there's also different field, like in football with field weather conditions as well. Well, it can optimize players' plays as well and help either get the defense and help train the defense to either push them a certain way. So then maybe it helps the other team slip in ways. It's really cool. I'll reference the slide here, but it's how AI is revolutionizing professional sports, I believe. But really, you collect all this data and you collect all the synthetic scenarios, and you have so much of it. Well, you can be ready for anything, obviously, right? We want to optimize. Or we want AI to give us the optimizing scenarios in every single situation and how the game could play out. Um, and obviously, that's million scenarios that can play out. But if we have artificial intelligence be so good at identify the actual possibilities of the game, then we wouldn't have to. Uh, and it helps us out with the known aspect of sports. Well, if we throw in addition the human unknown strengths that we have, we it will be unstoppable. This will be able for us to continue to use. Um, and that will eliminate a lot of the league trying to play replica or trying to have other teams play catch up or trying to have teams who are on the rebuild not take so long. Well, what if one of the teams on the rebuild find a really good player? Well, obviously the idea is to continue to build around them, but what if you are able to do that with players you hopefully play with players you want to have, and as the team gets better and has more money or wants to spend more money or want to use their trades to get a better player, well, it can use it's like upgrading the pawn for a king or not king, a queen in the chess aspect. Like it could be so ready for the system of how it's played and how you're playing can be so ready for the new professional. um, player coming in to really complement and really execute the coach's style and your AI optimization and predictive model with millions and millions of neural network, and it can train what it's been seeing consistently to really impact the future, and really impact that synthetic data or the future synthetic data it can use, right? Um, I thought this was a funny little uh, art or image that chat put together. But if you really are staying in the present, you can get ready for real time, or artificial intelligence can help you with real time suggestions and real time adjustments. I believe you can put yourself in the most optimal way to win, right? If it sees something that the other team can't see or doesn't have yet, well, artificial intelligence can create plays that adjust accordingly to the the defense. And it can even suggest, okay, well, we practice this way of offense. Let's just change it up to that for this moment. It can really be a great coach and a great mentor and a great way to show us what's known and how to accurately create a synthetic future. And obviously, we're also all human. You can't predict human nature. This book called the Success Equation, it's it really puts in perspective, though. Well, how much skill do you need? Well, if if Michael Jordan is ultimately like how much, well, okay, let me explain this a little bit real quick, but this is a graph that explains what activities take either more luck, like gambling. This is a lotto machine, and then this is also stocks and following the stock market. But then this is hockey, football, basketball, and it's saying that you need more skill to master these sports. Hockey's on the 50-50 line. It takes just as much skill, but then you'll need just as much luck to win. And chess is one of the most pure skills out there to win. And it's also, if you want to get into the numbers, it's based off of how much possession time you get and the defense and how much time the defense time gets. And it's a really cool concept. But what I'm saying is you still can't predict human emotion and human flaws, because and as much as you do prevent yourself and create skills to lower like an injury probability, it's still going to happen. There's still that 10% chance of it happening um, with it. And so you got to keep that in mind as well when you're doing this, but it still puts you in the best position to optimize your pure skill to then win and to uh, put yourself from a 25% chance to winning the NBA championship to a 30% chance of winning the championship. That is still a really, really, really good possibility of winning, right? So, um, the I have more photos here, but AI, or when I did a pre-run of this slide, I couldn't get the photos to load up. And but the main idea of this slide will ultimately you'll still lose battles. You'll still lose games in the season. You got the 72-9 Warriors, or the 62-10 Bulls back in the day. Other than I think the only one that was successful was the 17-0 Dolphins way back in the day. But even if you maximize and you win every single battle, or even if you lose in this season and you still win the championship, well, that's the end goal, no matter what. We want you'll win, but you may lose some along the way, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, you are made to win the championship. So you gotta lose the pawn sometimes to get the checkmate. That's what I'm just trying to say. Um, Here's the reference slide. Use chat to help for the images. This a couple of them were part of like the here's the episode 4 documentary I was referring to, but all these articles they gave me ideas of how I should shape this presentation. Um, where's that? Here's that or AI revolutionizing professional sports. That's the one I mentioned with Forbes. Go take a look at that. But other than that, I appreciate your time and thank you.